Welcome back, everyone, to part two of our December edition co-host spotlight, we'll call it. I just thought of that now. But anyway, we're shifting into the second part, really, of April's big journey as to how she got from her ground zero moment that we talked about last episode to where she is now. So going right into that, April, I just really want you to talk about just kind of your introduction to me, and I'll shed a little bit of light on that as well. That really complete, what's the word? I don't know. Anyway, weirdest thing for us is like the two of us live, I don't know, a half an hour away from each other. We went to the same college, we had classes together, and we had to meet someone that lived in Canada to introduce the two of us together to each other. And I mean, a little bit odd, but from there, I mean, things just kind of snowballed for both of us. We saw a lot of things the same way. We had a similar message that we wanted to share, and we were able to kind of bond over that and create this kind of shared vision for what then became, ground zero. So I just kind of want to hear a little bit about that from your perspective as far as, being introduced to me, and then, how we were able to kind of co-form that vision that we had for this show, and then what it was like coming on and becoming a co-host, and just kind of what that journey was like for you.
Yeah. So from hearing your story and how you got connected with Adam, jumping back a little bit, mine isn't far off from being quite similar. So, coming up on graduation, working in the entrepreneurial center, I'm thinking about, what is the next step? And we can even touch on this later if you want to, but, as someone who's non-traditional and having a bunch of different eyes looking at me, kind of expecting me to fail, since as I had said in the last episode, I had tried a bunch of different schools, nothing ever seemed to work out. I don't think anyone ever thought that I was going to get where I wanted to go. So I actually had a lot of doubters and a lot of negativity. I had no support. I had a lot of people that gave me a lot of crap because I would leave my kids in daycare all day and I'm only worried about myself. And what are you really going to do with a degree in the area that we live in? There's nothing here and the whole thing. And I think I was allowing myself to start to feel a little bit of the pressure of like, well, what am I going to show for myself? I graduate in a couple months and I don't know what that next step is. And, I've struggled with, I want to spend more time with my kids at home, but I also really love to work. That's just who I am. And I like to be busy and so on and so forth. So we had a symposium coming up where we were going to connect with a bunch of alumni and other entrepreneurs in the area who were possibly looking for students to get involved with their companies. And I thought, okay, I don't know what to expect, but I love a new opportunity. So, let's do it. I ended up being the host of the networking symposium. So I did not get to talk to anybody. And I mean, there were technical issues and the whole thing. And I was like, well, we always talk about wanting to be memorable and make that first impression. And because we started way too early and the whole thing was just kind of a mess, I was like, well, if anyone's going to remember me, I'll be like, hi, I was that girl who looked a little crazy in the networking symposium. Remember me? I'd love to connect with you. So of course they're going to remember me now. Toward the end of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, can I just get off camera, please? I'm watching the chat and I see some guy named Adam Carswell put in the chat that he's looking for content creators. And I'm thinking, Carswell, why does that name look so familiar? And I still don't understand how or why, as Westminster students, we get all these Carswell emails. Like, I don't know how that magic happens, but I get all these Carswell emails all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that name's super familiar. I don't even know how he's involved with Westminster, but I see these things all the time. Yes, I love to be creative. I love to do stuff in social media marketing. I kind of found a little bit of my niche in the entrepreneurial center through my experience at Westminster. So I was like, you know what? I'll reach out to this guy and I'll follow up and be like, yeah, I'm a content creator. Love to connect with you, ask you about your experience, blah, blah, blah. So he sent me a Calendly link. We set up a meeting and he was like, oh yeah, I'm a Westminster alumni and whatever. And he asked me about my story in those first couple minutes when we finally connected. And I never got the chance to ask him any questions about his alumni experience, life after college, the whole thing. He was so fascinated with what I had to say. He was like, oh my God, I love this for you. And you need a podcast. And I'm going to connect you with all these people. And you got to get a hold of Aaron Iler. I'm going to send you his number right now. And da, 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 da. And I was like, cool. Okay. Like what? I feel like Elle Woods from, I was like, flip my hair. Like that, like what? Like it's hard. You just get connected with, no big deal. Like, cool. Figured my life out, guys. Like I got all these opportunities coming. All I had to do was just go make a fool of myself for 5 minutes and we're good. So after that call, I was like, okay, I'm gonna text this Aaron Iler guy, and I'm thinking, is this like a networking professional? Like I had no idea he was a student. Like I'm thinking from meeting Adam that this is like someone in the industry or whatever, because he's got a podcast too on his thing, and we need to connect. I had no idea it's this 18-year-old kid or 19, 20-year-old kid. I was like, oh, cool. So I remember I texted you and then later found out that you were a student, later found out we had a class together, later found out that you were just a couple seats behind me. And that's how I got connected with you.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's pretty wild. Like, I mean, I remember like sitting in class and hearing you talk about your kids and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, she's going to school and she's got kids. Like, I mean, like I just personally can't imagine that. I mean, I don't have to, you know, luckily. But I mean, kudos to you again, just, you know what I mean, for doing everything that you had to do to make that work. And, you know, like that's one of the things that, I mean, just fascinates me about your story is that like at every turn, like you just found a way to make it work. And like, especially with like the entrepreneurship symposium that we put together, like you really just got thrown into that. Like you did not go into that knowing you were supposed to, you know, be the one up on camera, be the one talking, be the one doing any of that. And really that took away all of the other opportunities that you had planned for at that event, because then you didn't get to network, you didn't get to do all of those things. But yet, you know, serendipitously, here's the opportunity, you know, and enter Adam Carswell. But what I mean is just that like, it's weird how stuff like that happens, but at the same time, like, I don't know exactly what to call it, but we'll say life or the universe or whatever always finds a way. And that is where, you know, beyond that point, you know, we were able to develop this vision of what, you know, was ground zero. I kind of brought you in on the projects that I was working on. And, you know, we realized that in the idea that you had, we were kind of talking about the same, I guess you could say, type of situation. Wow, you were aiming for a slightly different audience, but we were talking about the same type of experience where no matter what you come from, what you've dealt with, you can make a change and you can develop yourself personally to put yourself in a better position for success, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're in now, no matter how far down the road you are. Like you can make change. And that's where a lot of this came from. And I really liked then we started like discussing how exactly we were going to kind of introduce you. And one of the first things you asked me was can I get some pink? Can we get some pink? That was literally one of the first things you ever asked me, was that, you know, we needed some color. She's like, you need to bring some life, you know, to yourself and to this message of yours. I mean, and since then, I think that's exactly what you've done, you know, for me as well as the show. And I suppose I'll go ahead and kick it back to you there. And I mean, just kind of talk about, you know, your experience a little bit in coming into that and finding your own role within the message that we were trying to create and, you know, push out. And then, you know, where that's led you to now.
So similar to your story too, when Adam told us that, you know, you need a podcast, I was like, who's gonna care what I have to say? I was like, do people even listen to podcasts? Like, I've never listened to a podcast. Like, is this actually a thing? But whatever, you know, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Cool. Like whatever, sure. So you know, got connected with you, and then I saw that you had this like dark black camo background, and I'm like, can we like spice this up a little bit or something? And I think that's just because my mind naturally goes toward branding, and that's something that I learned to recognize now upon graduation. Is that, you know, you should tap into these things that make you you, because that is how you figure out who you are, what you like to do, what your skills are, what you can turn that into, how you can brand yourself on your resume or whatever. So I had started to recognize that the things that I'm saying and the things that I'm looking at and the details that I'm paying attention to are really kind of driving me more in like a background marketing position. And I was like, man, like I really enjoy the aspect of like building a show and being behind the scenes and watching it come to life and all of those things. I was very intimidated with meeting people and talking about their lower moments in life and how they got to where they wanted to go. And like you said, we both were kind of aiming for that same vision. And at first it was for me more of like moms, non-traditional moms, talking about their experiences to getting to where they are today. And yours was kind of like, hey, I'm interested in everybody's story. And I was like, oh my God, you know what, I shouldn't just kind of like put myself in a box of having it just be moms. Like there's a bunch of people out there with a bunch of different stories. Like maybe we should just be doing this together. So we got connected through a bunch of Adam's connections early on who were mainly focused in real estate. So at first you might think it's a real estate show in the early episodes, but I'll say the people that I met, even though they were all coming into a real estate career, the stories of life, relationships, college, kids, the whole thing, there's so much depth um, that comes from that and interesting relatable things that you just don't think about this stuff. People don't talk about these things enough because there's probably not a really good place to just come up and do that. Like you do your job, you go home, but sharing these things there's just so much value in. And at the same time, as much as I appreciate the value that I received, even just personally, from these stories, I saw firsthand just how much work goes into finding people and scheduling them and taking the time to record with them and figuring out the questions. And really, nobody, not even Adam, and really, like, not even you, were like, okay, this is what you need to do, this is how it's going to go. And there was like no playbook for this. It was very much like I got thrown in and I was like, all right, I'm going to make it happen. But I kind of like really wish someone would tell me like what I'm supposed to be doing, saying how this is supposed to go. So I just did some research. I was trying to like make it my own, and I was setting up all of these like pre-calls and saying like, hey, what's your story? Let's see if it's a good fit. I would meet them, we'd have a great recording or a great call, and I'd be like, okay, that was great. Can you say it all over again? And we're going to record it now. And after like 2 or 3 times of doing that, I was like, maybe I need to just like record from the start, even if I don't know their story, without making them repeat everything all over again. Like I had to figure that out for myself. I didn't have anyone to tell me what to do. So it became very time consuming. And I think I quickly realized that kind of work, on top of the other work that I was doing from home, on top of being a mom, balancing a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old from home by myself while, my boyfriend's at work all day, it was just a lot. And I felt so bad because I was so excited to have this opportunity from Adam, to be working with him, to be meeting these other people across the country. I mean, I'm meeting people in Japan, I'm meeting people in Canada, I'm meeting people, states away. I'm meeting people who aren't too far away. I'm building great connections, but there was just a part of me that was like, you know what, I really don't love this. I don't. And I struggled over the summer with the amount of time that goes into doing that on top of working my job at home. And all I really wanted to do was focus on my kids. And it was hard because even with time differences with all these different people, I'm like locking my kids out of this little room in my house. So I have a 2-bedroom house, and we ended up moving our queen size bed into the same room as my kids. We were all sleeping in the same room so I can have this one room to work. My kids don't have any space. I have toys everywhere. I feel like an awful mom. I don't feel organized. I'm picking work over them. And um, it was, just another ground zero moment for me over the summer where I felt like I had to make a choice, and I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want to let Adam down. I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to quit, but I knew that the time was getting to be way too much. And I'm not someone who's ever used to choosing myself. And when I say myself, I also mean like my values for my kids. I was not choosing my kids. And I feel like with all the conversations you and I had over the summer, Aaron, I feel like you saw the best of me and the worst of me, because you saw me struggle like in the moment with my kids and balancing work and wanting to be the best version of myself and trying to take on everything. And I learned the hard way that I just can't do it all, I guess, from home. I can do it all with school. If you put me in school, I can do it all there. But when it comes to my whole world being in this little spot here, I really had to like toughen up and make some hard and fast decisions for me and choose me for once. And that was a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you really said it, better than I could. I mean, you just had to endure so much. And, as you said, I got to kind of see the best and the worst, but at the same time, like, that is also what helped the both of us realize what is best for you at that time. I mean, in having to work from home, in having to, manage work in life. And like at this time, like, yeah, we're doing a show, but like you had a job too, you had kids too. And kids is the big job, like that, you have a family. And that's all something that, like, I mean, it was hard for me to understand because, like, yes, of course I have a family at home, but I don't have children of my own. So like it's obviously different, but like in seeing that, it helped me one develop an understanding of what you were going through, but also for you, it helped you realize that, like you said, like, I don't love this isn't what's best for me or best for my kids, and you have more to account for now. So that's where, not necessarily trying to like spoil your announcement, I guess you could say, but where you've more or less realized that, it's better for you to make a shift into a role more so behind the scenes. And I mean, really, you pretty much explained all of it there, but it's just easier for you. You don't have to take the time to, do all of the setup, to do the recording, where here you can kind of edit on your own time. You can handle show notes. You can do all of those things kind of on your own time at your leisure. And you still have that free time to spend with your kids. And I mean, like, kind of funny enough, like, you don't have to worry about having the room be as clean as can be, having no interruptions, like all of those little things, like you just don't necessarily have to worry about now. And it's just more convenient for you that you have more time for them, yet you're still getting to do the work that you enjoy. And that's where I really like kind of the transition stage that I guess that you're kind of in right now, because like, yeah, you've had to adapt a little bit, but that's okay. And you're putting yourself in a position that's more suitable for the lifestyle that you're living right now and for the life that you're trying to build for your kids, which is the most important thing. So that's one of the things that I really love about, like, recognizing what that truly was for you and realizing that you're like, yes, this was a tremendous opportunity. And yes, I have really enjoyed this, but it's not what's best for me at this moment in time or for my kids. And of course, that's what you had in mind. So sorry, I looked like you were about to say something there, so I'll go ahead and kick it
No,
back
I'm
to you.
agreeing with you. No, thank you. No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, I mean, you and I have really just kind of developed this, like, I don't know, friendship, partnership thing, like a little bit of both, which has been great. Really just kind of along the way through all the experiences that we've kind of, like, thrown ourselves into together. I mean, and even now, like, we're still working on this together. Like, as I said, like, sadly, you are making a little bit of a shift, to go a little bit more behind the scenes, but your energy is still here. Your touch of color is still here. And that's what I really enjoy. You know what I mean? Obviously, I enjoyed having you as a co-host and recording. And, I love having your perspective on here as well. Maybe we'll do some surprise appearances in the future. But as of right now, you're just making that shift for what's best for you. And obviously, I understand that. So, I obviously already have, and I still wish you the best through that transition. But like, what I really love the most is that your touch and your vision and, all, your energy are all still here. And I know that's going to go into helping us find great future guests. That's going to go into, helping to continue to develop good content. So obviously, thank you for one, not, it's like, wow, you recognize that this wasn't necessarily providing you with the most out of the experience right now. You didn't necessarily just give up on it either. You didn't quit, and you still said that, you know what, this is a lot right now, but, you know, I am still here. I do still enjoy what we're doing. And, you know, I do, you know, still want to work on this with Aaron. So I do appreciate, you know, you being willing to stay on it through everything. And I mean, and now the two of us have even kind of found a joint position elsewhere as well. So, you know, I kind of have to like beat you off with a stick if I want to. But, you know, I've enjoyed every bit of it. You know, obviously at this point we work pretty well together. And I think that our abilities accent each other as well. So I don't know if you want to touch on that at all before we go ahead and, you know, wind things down a little bit.
Yeah. So I was really scared, like I had said, to say anything to Adam because I felt so thankful that someone wanted to like give me a show. And at first it started out as my own thing. And then we ended up doing this together, which we thought was a better fit. And then, you know, coming to this realization, you know, I talked to you about it first and I was like, I still want to be a part of everything. I just, you know, I can't be putting all this time and effort into these other people. Not that I don't care about what they're doing and they're saying or their time, because I do, but I'm also not giving my kids that same attention. And I feel awful. And I just don't feel like I'm being the best mom, the best version of myself, whatever that is. Like, it's just, it wasn't right. So I remember when I had told Adam, like, I'm so sorry. I still want to be here to help out Aaron. I would love to take on more responsibilities behind the scenes, but this is just something that right now, you know, it's just, it's taking away from the value that I feel like I'm providing, you know, at home as a, you know, being a mom and so on. And he was like, April, that is like the most brave thing you could have done. He's like, honestly, he said for himself, he's like, I want my wife to focus on kids and not have to work as much. Like he's like, I love that that's where your heart is and that's where it should be. And, you know, anything you need, I love that you're still here. And he was like, even if you wanted to take a couple months off and not work at all, I'd still pay you because I want you to be here. And I was like, oh my God, like I really didn't know what to expect. And it's not like he's mean or scary or intimidating. I'm very much like a yes woman. I want to be able to be everywhere and be all things to all people. But like I said, I had to learn the hard way that that's not a reality, especially when, you know, you're a mom and your work is right here at home and there are constant interruptions and time changes, and you just have to really pick the things that provide the most value to you, that, you know, your heart is really in. And I figured that out.
Yeah, and I do want to kind of jump in right here and make my own, I guess you could say, bold prediction that you heard it here first, folks. I do still think that April is going to end up with her own show. It's just not convenient right now. I'm calling it now. I don't know when, and I don't know how soon or anything like that, but I'm calling it now that she's still going to end up with her own show. And it's going to be tremendous. I already know that the gears are turning up there. It's just waiting for that right time. And I tell her all the time that the timing is never going to be right, but I also agree with her that now might not necessarily be the best time. So that's just knowing everything that's going on. But yeah, so I mean, honestly, just thank you so much. I mean, for obviously everything that you've contributed up to this point. I mean, the two of us have been on quite the journey as far as learning what this is all about, and just, I mean, just internally over these past 8 months now or so we've been going. I mean, it's been crazy, but I mean, I guess you came in a little bit later, but still, like, it's been amazing. And I mean, I feel like we've both learned so much, and I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, you know, obviously working alongside you and continuing to, but just obviously thank you so much again for everything that you've done, and now you know, still being willing to help out and, you know, stay on as well. And then, you know, finally having the opportunity to open up and really share, you know, everything that you've been through that helped you to get to where you are now. I think that there's so much power in everything that you said, and that I think that there's definitely going to be, you know, maybe a single mom or just a young student out there that's going to hear what you said and say, you know what, like, she's right. And I need to take that and apply that to my own life, because there's so many different things that you mentioned today that, you know, might not necessarily ring true to somebody's exact situation, but it's very easily something that you could say, okay, you know, right here, she pivoted and she made this choice because this is how, you know, X situation was making her feel. And I think maybe that's something that I need to do right now, just because that's what's best for me, best for my family, best for whatever. That could be your own mental health. That could be your parents. That could be anything. But at the same time, like, what I feel like you truly highlighted is that, I mean, things like that are going to happen, but it's also okay to make that change for what's best for you right now. And, you don't have to give up on the things that you enjoy just because change is coming. But, sometimes you do kind of have to adapt. And that's one of the things that I really liked that you shared in your story today.
Thank you. And I will say, going off of that, when it comes to making those changes, people always say, like, you're going to lose people. I saw that. I have a lot of friends that are not friends with me anymore because they didn't like the choices that I made. They didn't like that I chose to put my kids in daycare. They didn't like that I chose to get my education. And something that just really baffles me is that no one ever asked me how I was able to do all the things that I was doing. And I got a lot of really great momentum from going back to school. Now, I understand that a lot of people have different opinions about school and the kind of value that it brings. But with my experience at Westminster, I couldn't ask for a better experience, especially because of the Entrepreneurship Center, where we were put in real life situations with local companies. We were working hand in hand with people in real time. And that it sprawled into another open door, another open door, another open door. It sprawled into the newspaper putting me on the front page under a headline that said "Women in Charge: A Focus on Female Entrepreneurship." And I was like, oh my God, like I feel powerful as a student, as an individual, as a mom, because I'm doing something. I'm making the most of this time while my kids are in daycare, which I love too. My kids are learning how to respect other adults that are not mommy and daddy. They're learning how to play well with other children. They're learning how to do their ABCs with other kids and 1, 2, 3s and so on. And it kept all of us on a really great schedule. And it was just something that really worked for me, for my situation. And like I said, I really didn't have a lot of support. I had friends and even friends' parents put me down for the choices that I made. And you know what? Like, that's okay, because I did what I felt was best for me, and I didn't let anyone on the outside influence those decisions. So that is something that I will say, it's, when it's time to do that, you kind of like, your heart has to be in it for yourself and not for what anyone else wants for you or from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of quickly touching on one of the things that you mentioned as well, is that really no matter what you do or choose to do, haters are still going to hate. And I mean, I know that wasn't my best terminology, but no matter what you do, no
Haters are
matter what you do, no matter what you do, like it's always going to be that way. If you choose to go off to school, they're going to say you're not present enough at home. If you choose to stay at home, they're going to say that you're settling and staying at home and you're not making anything of yourself. It doesn't matter what you choose. Somebody's not going to like it. And, I'm sorry, but like, that's just something that you're going to have to kind of move past. And, that's where I think it's extremely important. Like you just said, you have to be in it for you, because no matter what, somebody's going to try to knock you down. It doesn't matter. And it might not be who you think. But if you're in it for you and you're truly trying to realize your own potential, like make that vision happen for yourself or for a future family or anything like that, that is what's going to propel you to moving through those situations, regardless of what anybody else is saying, because you want to do it for you.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, with that, I think, once again, thank you. I know I've said it a bunch today already, but once again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I really did enjoy hearing your story. I mean, once again, in depth, and just really letting you kind of air it out for more to hear as well. I think that anybody who listens in today is going to get a lot from it. And, I hope that they reach out to you as well. I know you want to hear from them. And I know that you have, tons of energy and resources that you might be able to help them out with along on their personal journeys as well. So, as I said in the last episode, we're definitely going to have links in the show notes as well. Reach out to her if if you felt anything that she touched on today, reach out to her, let her know, and she'll be happy to connect. That was the word I was looking for, to connect with you and to kind of talk through those things. So, it's been really awesome once again to allow you to share your story and to hear it once again. Do you have any last closing remarks before we go ahead and close it down?
No, just thank you. And thanks for listening and for, giving me this space to do it. And I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to still be working with you in all the different projects we still have going on. And I'm happy to still be very much present, but just a little bit more behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned already, I mean, we're more than happy that you're still here, lending the creative eye and, just that, energy that you bring to all the situations that we're in. So obviously, thank you again. But with that, everybody, we really appreciate your time today. Always remember, this is Dream Chasers ground zero, and there's nowhere to go from here. But thanks, guys.